Welcome to See It Drive. Today we're driving the Suzuki SX4, new to the Australian market, and I've got to say, first impressions, a nice little car. Good quality interior, but Chris, I've got one problem. I don't know what it is.
It's a cross, I guess you could say, between a Suzuki Swift and a Grand Vitara. It has the four-wheel drive traditions of a Grand Vitara, but yet that compact feel and sporty feel of a Suzuki Swift.
And there's nothing on the market we can compare it to. We've mulled over this for the week we've had the car. It's not a mini Captiva. It's not a mini Territory. People buying those cars are not on the market for this. I'm not even sure, although walking up to it in a car park recently, I sort of thought maybe RAV4, but then it still doesn't have the essence of the four-wheel drive that is the RAV4.
Now, I really think that this car is for the image-conscious sort of people. You know, around the age group of 25 to 39, married couple, single, doesn't matter. I think this car says a lot about a person's personality and the sort of lifestyle they lead, and it'd be an active lifestyle the person who'd buy this sort of car would lead.
Whether or not it has a place in the Australian market, I'm not sure. You're talking $25,000 car, $24,000, $25,000. You know, we've got the space here of a Suzuki Swift, or maybe a little bit more. I feel like I'm driving a Barina. It's not that much bigger in terms of space, but then you've got the height, you've got the room in terms of people space, and you've got the all-wheel drive capabilities.
It's a recreational vehicle, which is also suited to A to B driving in the city during the week.
Let's have a look at the features.
The SX4 is available in two different drivetrains. You've got the manual and automatic. The manual is a 5-speed, it's the one we're driving right now, and there's also a 4-speed automatic available. And it's powered by a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, which I think it packs 107 kilowatts of power.
107 kilowatts is correct.
Which is, you know, obviously not the most powerful engine going around, but it's adequate for this type of car. You never really feel like the engine is struggling. You wouldn't say it's asthmatic, you wouldn't say it's a powerhouse, but the way it delivers power is more than adequate for what you'd expect in a car, you know, priced around $25,000, and for what this car is designed for. Interestingly,
we've driven this now nearly 700 kilometres, mainly city driving, and certainly in our very standard term, spirited driving. You know, it's always good to give a car a bit of a going over and to find out how it handles. And we've found this, well, look, after 620 kilometres, this is doing 8.9 litres per 100 kilometres. So I think that's actually reasonably good fuel economy, given that they're saying 8.7, and we've been giving it a bit of a caning, and we've ended up with 8.9. The all-wheel drive only applies up to 60 kilometres an hour. That's right. So you're talking on hill descents and hill ascents. You know, wet weather, those sort of conditions is when the auto mode will kick the rear two wheels in. And you notice that if you happen to do a bit of a wheel spin, you notice the front wheels spin before the rear wheels kick in. If you lock it into four-wheel mode, you will get the constant wheel spin from them all, but only up until 60 k's an hour.
And that feature's really only handy in situations where you might be in the snow and you need to get out of a bogged down situation, or perhaps on a dirt track. But most of the time in a vehicle like this, it's not a hard off-roader, it's a soft off-roader. You're not going to need permanent four-wheel drive.
I think the all-wheel drive is probably the good wet weather feature for this country. It's not really the sort of car that people are going to be taking out into the sand dunes.
And it also fills the breach where this car doesn't have ESP.
No traction control.
The ability for this car to send the power to all four wheels when it needs it fills the breach in terms of the lack of ESP. But that's a feature that it does miss. But I'll tell you what, for what you get, it is absolutely packed with other features.
A person who's driving this car because of what it is, not because of what they need, is going to love the fact that it's keyless entry. Keep the key in your pocket. The key to this car is in my pocket right now, and we're cruising along. All I need to do is approach the car, and on the handle of the door, there's a button. Press the button, that unlocks. And then you start the car, you just turn the ignition, there's no key required. Those sort of little features are really going to impress people who are accessorising. When you look at the dashboard layout and things like that, I think it's a very impressive layout. It's very well structured, very simple. At night it's very bright and red. Very disappointed the steering wheel controls don't light up.
Very confusing at night.
I think you get used to that, and I think that's just being picky. The air conditioning controls and fan controls are really good. They're big dials, they click, so you're not wondering where it is. It's an obvious point of change. The stereo is very simple. It's integrated into the dashboard, and there's these beautiful silver accents in the dashboard, which, look, I think just set it off really well.
And I don't think they're plastic either. You give them a tap and it really feels like aluminium. Not sure what it's made of, but that is a special touch to this interior, which really does.
I'm sure someone will email us and tell us that you're a goose because they're plastic, but so be it.
Okay, that's a bit of humour that Trevor Long's injected into this segment, and good luck to him. Maybe he's going to be the comedian from now on. just briefly, a lot of cars have big center console displays. This has got a fairly basic one, which is just above the top 2 air vents there. That just displays simple features. Once again, in that red glow, the time, the outside temperature, the fuel, the instant and average fuel.
Yeah, so we can switch that to be running on instant fuel economy and also the average.
We've got these really attractive air vents on the side, which almost spin in a 360-degree manner. I'm just struggling to open one at the moment, providing adequate airflow to the rest of the cabin. In terms of the cabin colouring, we've got the 2-tone black plastic. We've got, you know, material inserts in the door here, which just, you know, I guess breaks up what is there is quite a lot of plastic in this cabin, let's admit. But the plastic itself is hard, but it has a quality look to its texture. One thing which annoys me a little bit about the interior of the Suzuki we're driving is where the front airbag is on the passenger side. We've got these little imperfections. It's almost like a H sort of shaped, sort of, you know, a series of lines.
It's clearly the point where the dashboard breaks when the airbag explodes out.
It's all too obvious. That's
you know what? That's a quality thing, because in you know, Commodore, in European cars, in fact in most cars, you don't see. You used to, but you just don't anymore see those. They're the seams basically. It's a minor thing, but you're right. It's a picky thing. But when you're sitting here day after day looking at it, you just keep seeing this line. You feel like rubbing it off.
I do have a problem with the steering. It's only a small issue, and I know you disagree with me, and that's your prerogative. I just feel that the steering's a little bit heavy, particularly off-centre. I found it a fraction annoying after a while. I wouldn't say that it affects the actual ability and dynamics of the car, but it feels like it's a little bit unassisted, and I just don't like that. But I get over that and I move on, because let's talk about the actual handling. It's beautiful, really. There's minimal body roll, and for a car with this added ride height and you'd imagine extra suspension travel,
you really feel like you're gonna when you go into a corner at speed. I'm talking a bend, a curve at 60 k's an hour. You sort of feel like you're gonna have to sort of counter the body roll, but there is basically none.
It stays planted.
I think that's a really positive thing about this car. Well, summing up, Chris, I'm a fan. I don't mind it. I think the negatives about it for me are quite simply, I don't know that I would buy one. I don't know that if I was someone that was looking for a leisure vehicle, you know, to take with me into the bush or into areas where I might need a bit of four-wheel drive, this is not the car I'd take. If I'm a beach goer or something like that, looking for that sporty style, you know, space to put things in, I don't think this is the car. You're talking these little Volvos and things that do that. RAV4. If I'm looking for a small car, this is a great car. It drives well, but you know, $24,000. I just don't know that it's what I would buy.
I wouldn't buy it either. I've got to say, it's a good looking car. We haven't really spoken about the exterior. It is a good looking car, and it's that European themed, nice flowing lines, very sophisticated looking. I guess it does suit your personality. You've got to be a fun person to want this car. You might be a bit of a beach bum, you might be a surfer, you might be a young teenage girl. This could be your first car.
I've got to say that the interesting thing about criticising a car for not having a market and for being too niche, there's a lot of cars like that.
Yeah.
And they all find a market because there are people who want unique. And if you want a unique car, this is it, because it stands out. There's plenty of little decent colour ranges. This is sort of light ocean blue, they call it. You know, I think it'll definitely find a market in Australia, and I can't fault it if you buy it. Yeah. I think if you buy it and you choose to spend $24,000 on this car, well done, and enjoy it.
They've come up with a very nice package, Suzuki. You can't really fault this car. I've got to say that it impresses me in terms of the handling, the interior, the looks. It's not the sort of car I'd buy. There are plenty of people out there who would buy it, those active, funky types of people. But for what it does offer and for what it is, Suzuki have done a very good job. The Suzuki SX4, we drove it, and this has been See It Drive.